Putin, hands off Ukraine!
We are here to stand for our freedom, for our independence, and to show our support for Ukraine and Ukrainian people.
On Sunday, hundreds marched from the Lincoln Memorial to the White House to demand President Biden escalate U.S. support for Ukraine and sanctions against Russia amidst growing tensions in Ukraine's eastern border. Since that time, Russian President Vladimir Putin has indeed ordered Russian forces into eastern Ukraine regions, which he calls a peacekeeping force, but which the international community largely considers the beginning of an invasion. NATO says the incursion is a violation of the Minsk Agreements, which Russia is a party to. For his part, Putin blamed the incursion on Ukraine's possible inclusion in NATO.
Disband NATO! No war with Russia!
Disband NATO!
As the situation in the region spirals, Americans have varying opinions on what the United States' role should be.
No war with Russia! Disband NATO!
Nearly a month ago, on January 27th, a coalition of anti-war leftist groups, including CODEPINK, Women for Peace, Answer Coalition, Party for Socialism and Liberation, and Black Alliance for Peace gathered in front of the White House to hold a No War with Russia, Disband NATO rally.
We're here today to call for an end to this warmongering, saber-rattling insanity that the U.S. government is engaged in with Russia, trying to use the Ukraine as a proxy. And do we really think that the United States cares about the sovereignty or democracy inside Ukraine?
The activists condemned the tensions already escalating by then as a pretext for conflict with Russia.
Money for jobs and education!
Not for war and occupation!
Money for jobs and education!
Not for war and occupation!
The group see NATO as a vehicle for American imperialism, itself a vehicle for financial success of war profiteers.
Disband NATO!
You know, it's funny, when you think about NATO and what it purports to be, they say it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? Yes. But somehow we see NATO in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya. Those aren't exactly places I'd classify as North Atlantic. Now, I ain't no geographical genius. But what's clear is that regardless of what NATO says, regardless of what the United States and its junior partners in that body says, all NATO is just one more vehicle to try to solidify U.S. hegemony, U.S. control, a unipolar world where the United States keeps its fangs and its claws sunk into the people's lands and resources all over this globe.
We must not fall for these false provocations propagated by the U.S. elite and their puppets in the corporate media. Let us be clear again, NATO is the aggressor. The U.S. is the aggressor. It is our duty as citizens of this country to name and challenge our enemy and our own oppressor. We must challenge and struggle against the war contractors who are looking to start more wars to gain endless profits.
They see both sides of the American political establishment in concert on the issue.
And so we see that there is no real voice of peace inside this U.S. government. Democrat, Republican, we know that war and imperialism is a bipartisan issue.
USA, support Ukraine!
While the Stand With Ukraine rally may have opposite views from the leftist activists, they agree on the bipartisanship of the issue.
In this city, not known for its unity, but here we have Republicans and Democrats, we have the Congress and we have the administration, we have administration of the Democrats, administration of Republicans, one after the other, all strongly supporting Ukraine. That's the unity that has made Ukraine strong, and it's the unity that made strong together.
Former ambassador to Ukraine William Taylor, who served under Bush and Obama and later as the acting ambassador under Trump, told the crowd Ukraine should be supported militarily even if an invasion didn't occur.
even if Putin doesn't invade Ukraine now, next week, next month, even if he doesn't, even if he goes to the negotiations, as I hope he will, he won't give up on Ukraine. He won't give up on trying to subordinate Ukraine, trying to bring Ukraine back into the Russian world, as we have heard earlier. He will not give up. He may stand down for now, but he won't stand down forever. He'll be back. What that means is this group in the United States, NATO, we need to stand with Ukraine over the long term. We need to provide support for Ukraine over the long term, military, political, financial, and we have to keep on doing that. Stand with it. Slava Ukraine.
Biden has laid out serious sanctions that will be imposed on Putin if he sends those 100,000 plus troops in. We've got to make sure they are as tough as possible, because we don't know precisely what they are. And while I have great faith in people in the State Department, they have to persuade some of our less steely spined allies and partners. So that's something to watch and to be ready for.
John Herbst, who served as Ukraine ambassador under Bush, also spoke out, advocating that participants call their representatives to tell them to send military equipment to Ukraine.
We are still not sending enough advanced weaponry to Ukraine. Ukraine needs American Stingers. Write your congressman, write your senator, and say, send those Stingers. And don't let them say, well, the administration is there. No. You tell them. And you have power in this country. You have power in this country. Encourage them to do the right thing, because sometimes they need encouragement.
Stand with Ukraine!
Stand with Ukraine!
Stand with Ukraine!
Stand with Ukraine!
USA, support Ukraine! USA, support Ukraine! USA, support Ukraine! USA, support Ukraine! USA,
Support Ukraine!
USA, support Ukraine!
USA, support Ukraine!
USA, support Ukraine!
USA, support Ukraine!
Announce sanctions now!
Sanctions now!
Many of the participants held signage comparing Vladimir Putin to Adolf Hitler, suggesting retribution, rather than appeasement, would be the proper path forward.
USA, stand with Ukraine! USA, supports Ukraine! USA, supports Ukraine! USA, supports Ukraine!
No more appeasement. Sanctions now.
President Biden, take action now!
Announce meaningful sanctions!
Announce meaningful sanctions!
Announce meaningful sanctions!
Announce meaningful sanctions!
Following Putin's escalation this week, CODEPINK doubled down on their original stance in a statement condemning sanctions and calling for negotiations to reach a peaceful resolution. They maintain their position that NATO has outlived any good purpose.
So I'm going to begin to impose sanctions in response far beyond the steps we and our allies and partners implemented in 2014. And if Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions.
President Biden indeed revealed new sanctions against Russia Tuesday afternoon, siding with activists calling for more tangible support for Ukraine and against Putin.
As Russia contemplates its next move, we have our next move prepared as well. Russia will pay an even steeper price if it continues its aggression, including additional sanctions. The United States will continue to provide defensive assistance to Ukraine in the meantime, and will continue to reinforce and reassure our NATO allies. Today, in response to Russia's admission that it will not withdraw its forces from Belarus, I have authorized additional movements of U.S. forces and equipment already stationed in Europe to strengthen our Baltic allies, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
Ford Fisher, News to Share, for Activism Uncensored, a collaboration with TK News.